Ladies and gentlemen, get ready to embark on a journey like no other. Welcome to the Glum Lot Podcast,
your go-to destination for a unique blend of recovery and discovery.
I'm Brett.
And I'm Mark. And in this podcast, we will endeavor to create a safe and uplifting space for our guests and listeners to share their stories with sincerity and a touch of humor.
Remember, we are not a Glum Lot. The Glum Lot Podcast is more than just a source of entertainment. It's a beacon of hope, proving that even in the darkest moments, recovery is possible. Every story we share carries the power to inspire positive change.
So buckle up, get ready to listen, and join us in discovering the strength that lies within every individual's journey. This is the Glum Lot Podcast, where humor meets hope.
Okay, we are at number 12, The Dozen, episode number 12. So, again, I just want to remind everybody we do have an email. It is theglumlotpodcast@gmail.com. Feel free to email us your thoughts. And we also have a Facebook group that we would love to have you join, and that is the Glum Lot Podcast group on Facebook. Search it out. Feel free to join. We'd love to have you. Right?
Yeah, and just another thing real quick, if we are on YouTube now.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah. And anytime you're looking at one of these, or you're listening to our podcast, let's smash that subscribe, right?
Oh, yeah.
And make sure you
Crush it.
follow us because and turn notifications on so you can know when we have new ones come up.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah, we're also available on every other podcast platform. Yeah, Apple, Spotify, Amazon,
Music, all those.
Yeah.
There's just tons
We're
of
on
them.
them all.
So.
Pandora. Okay, so what is on the mind of Brett today?
So when I came in today, I got it right away.
Yeah?
Oh, instantly. I knew everything.
Not me.
Not me either. As soon as I thought I had a little bit, I would tell myself, nah, you can't do this. Or I'll do it just long enough so I can go right back out and get screwed up again.
Right. How can I learn to control it?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And that's only because we just don't know enough about AA or, the program that we're working.
Or ourselves.
Right.
Yeah.
And I don't trust myself, right? Because I know the decisions I've made so far to maybe get myself sober, and they never worked out. So a lot of times, I would get these earwigs in my ear about, how to move forward in the program, how we have to be, how we can be kind to others, work with others. And I'm just like, it's all about me right now, though. But I knew that had to happen. I just didn't know exactly how to do it. So what I was told, just act as if, fake it till you make it.
Right.
Because any new habit, we've got to do it over and over and over
Yeah,
again.
and another great thing I've heard is we can't think our way into good living. We have to live our way into good thinking. So in other words, take the actions even though they don't jibe with the way you're thinking.
Yeah, they don't feel natural.
Right, because the way we're thinking is clearly how we got there. Our best thinking got us to the door of AA.
Absolutely.
And so it's time to make a change, and we can't think our way into that change. We have to live our way into that change.
Yeah, and if I'm always looking back on, those bad decisions that I made, or I'm always thinking about if I do this, if this happens again, I'll go back to drinking. That doesn't make sense because we will never stop. So we've got to be forward thinking, and those things are going to be foreign to us. But as long as we know them, we can act that out, and eventually it becomes real.
Yeah, and another thing is, you're sitting there on the couch, you just got home from a hard day at work, you turn the TV on and you look at your watch and you go, the meeting starts in 20 minutes. Do I really want to go? I probably don't really have, quash that.
Yeah.
Get up and do it anyway. And eventually it becomes second nature. I'm going to an 8 o'clock meeting on Thursday night or whatever it is. Because initially we're going to try to overthink everything.
That's a great illustration.
Yeah, I mean, it happened to me. And I didn't go. I let the thought win over, and I went out and drank again. So, yeah, you got to live your way into good thinking.
I love that. Yeah. Act as if.
As if. So, let's act as if we're going to have a guest come in here. Want to?
Yeah, let's do it.
And it's a very good guest, a guy we've known for a long time. Great sobriety, awesome sponsor. Sponsors a lot of guys.
Oh, he's been a speaker.
And he is a very traditional sponsor, going through the book, going through the steps, just like people have done it for 100 years. So let's welcome our guest, Bobby T.
Bobby T.
Bobby T, welcome to the Glum Lot Podcast. We're glad to have you here.
Thank you. I'm
And
glad
if
to
we
be
could
here.
just start out with your sobriety date.
All right, so my sobriety date is August 1st, 2008.
Okay. And we want to hear a little bit about what happened and how you end up getting sober. So, do you remember your first drink?
I do. I was 6 years old.
Holy shit balls.
And it was
You win.
You win. You're the youngest.
And I remember very clearly, I was on the roof. My father did a roof job, and I was up on this flat tire roof, and that's the only thing he brought to drink. And I can still picture that can. It was Genesee beer. Beads of sweat on the side of it.
Yep.
It was cold, and I liked it. Yep, and I liked it.
Right. Now, did you catch a buzz?
I think I did, yeah. I drank two of them.
Holy
I was
crap,
6
for a
years
6-year-old kid.
6 years old.
Damn,
You know?
son.
I don't think you would have fallen off the roof.
Pretty freaking hardcore from day one. So.
I'm
Probably
sure
floated.
I'm sure I had sips of
Yeah.
but that's the one I remember.
But do you remember the feeling?
I do.
And do you remember how you felt about that feeling?
I remember it felt pretty awesome. And already at 6 years old, my life was kind of a train wreck, And I mean, I've heard this said before, and I'll say this. So I was restless, irritable, and discontent in kindergarten.
Okay.
I needed a drink. I just didn't know it yet. I am firmly convinced I was born an alcoholic. I did not become one. I was born an alcoholic, without a doubt.
So at what point did you pick it up as like a real hobby?
All right. So about 13 years old, I did make a decision as time went on. Life was pretty rough at home. My father's alcoholism was pretty bad. He was a violent dude, and there was a lot of problems. And he actually ended up living on the street. All right. When him and my mother split up, I was about 8 years old. And within a year or two, he was literally living on the street downtown. And so I had made a decision, I'm not going to drink. I could see what it did to him, and I'm not going to do it.
Okay.
But by the time I was 12, 13 years old, all my friends are smoking weed and they're drinking. And my buddy's father had a liquor cabinet, and I said, all right, I'll drink until it becomes a problem. That's exactly what I thought at 13 years old.
Wow.
By 14 years old, I was drinking every day.
At 14 years old, it was a problem.
It was a problem.
So,
but I liked it.
Was it affecting your life? Was it unmanageable?
So I was a straight A student until I started drinking, and then I just stopped going. So for 2 years of school, I hardly ever participated. I remember I failed ninth grade. It was the first time that had ever happened. I always got like hundreds, and I always did very well in school.
Yeah.
And ninth grade, I failed. So I went to summer school. I'm going to get my shit together, and I'm going to do this, and I got to stop doing what I'm doing. And I went to summer school. So I passed ninth grade by doing that, and I went back to 10th grade for 2 days. And that was it.
So now, what are you doing at this point as far as drinking and drugs?
I'm doing a lot of weed, smoking weed every day, and I'm drinking as much as I can. I mean, I was living kind of a rough part of town where I grew up. I was stealing anything I could get my hands on to get money, so that I could get more weed. I was buying and selling weed, and the neighborhood I grew up in, thief was a respected profession. So like people put in orders. Can you get me a bike for my kid for his birthday? Sure. What do you want?
Find one, yeah. So do you at this time do you feel like this is kind of normal? This is not an abnormal life I'm living. This is okay.
I want to say that most of the people around me were living that way in that neighborhood, so it did feel kind of normal. But at the same time, I knew I was way out of control. I knew that, but I was enjoying it.
What was your home life like at the time?
So like I said, my father had moved out, and he was living on the street. So it was just my mom, and my mom worked a lot, and it was just me and my brother and my mom. And I want to say this too: he took a way different path than me. He graduated early from school, got a really good job. Yep, lived the same way I did, but he went a completely different direction. I just kind of surrendered to my disease, without realizing that's what I was doing. Mm-hmm. And so the life at home was I could come and go as I pleased.
Yeah.
There was nobody watching me, and all my mother needed was a good story. She just wanted me to, for some reason or another, it wasn't my fault, so then it wasn't her fault. Okay?
So as long as you had an explanation.
And I'd be like, you don't understand, Mom. I know we took your car when you were sleeping.
Bobby's a good boy. Bobby's a good boy.
Yeah, it wasn't my idea.
So you got away with shit.
Yeah, little
right?
Jimmy over here, he's the one,
So you were getting away with a lot of stuff. You're drinking, you're smoking pot, you're living a life of not going to school and living on the streets.
And your
a
mom
bit,
was your
right?
alibi.
Yeah. And so at some point, do you get in trouble?
I did. First of all, there was school. I wasn't 16 yet. I was supposed to be going to school, so I'm dodging like the truant officers. You know what I mean? They're sending letters. I'm intercepting the mailman on the corner, throwing that shit in the garbage. And I meant to mention too, my grandmother lived next door to us, and she was pretty. I'm gonna go on a limb and say she was an alcoholic too. She drank beer all day long. And she kind of knew that I was messed up. She kept telling my mother, "You got to watch that kid. You got to watch him." And my mom's like, "He's fine. He's a good boy."
Bobby's a good boy.
As long as I was smiling.
Yeah. So does your disease progress during these
Absolutely.
years?
I mean, I was a blackout drinker. By the time I was 17, 18 years old, so you asked about trouble. So I got arrested the first time when I was 17.
For what?
So that was assault. Resisting arrest. And quick story on that. My brother had this gold-colored gremlin, all right? So I'm hanging out in this local park.
For those listeners who are young, a gremlin was a car.
Yes.
It wasn't an actual gremlin.
Yes.
Thank you for that.
Okay. Well, that's a good point, because maybe somebody doesn't know that. So, but there weren't that many of them around, right?
Yeah.
So I'm hanging out in this park partying with a bunch of people, and I'm pretty lit, and it's about 12 o'clock at night, and across the street is this bar. And there's a gold gremlin parked there. And in my head, that's my brother's car. So I went over and I sat on the hood and I waited for him to come out. Well, when the guy who owned it came out, he was there. It was a softball team that had got done playing and they went to the bar to drink. And I argue with a guy and he gets a baseball bat out. So I snatched the bat away from him. He goes back in the bar and the whole team comes out. And then everybody from the park comes over. And now we got a brawl going on. All right. And that... I know this is supposed to be fun, but that got pretty deep there because a guy hit me with a bat, and I snatched it away from him, and he tripped and fell when he was running away from me, and I was over him with a bat, and I was going to cave his head in, okay? And this is God working in my life before I even knew that God was working in my life. A cop grabbed that bat from behind. The cops had arrived, and I didn't know that, and a cop grabbed that bat from behind, and when I turned around, he hit me with a nightstick, and I went down, didn't go out, but I went down on my knees, and the thing is that I would have killed that guy.
Yeah.
I would have killed that guy. I was in a drunken blackout rage.
You might have spent the rest of your life in jail.
Yeah. And instead I got resisting arrest. And another little funny part of that story, I also had about 27 grams on me, okay? Because I was selling weed, to kind of support my habit. And when I get stuffed in the car, I was sitting in a cop car, and they were kind of cleaning up the mess that was out there, and I was trying to get him handcuffed behind my back, and I'm trying to get this stuff out of my pocket so I can stuff it down in the seat. And the cop sees me through the window. So he throws the door open, slams me up against the side of the car. "What are you doing?" He thinks I got a weapon or something. I go, "It's a bag of weed, man." So he grabs the bag of weed, he opens it, and he goes, "Ooh." He goes, "What do you want to go to jail for? Resisting arrest or resisting arrest and possession with intent to sell?" And I go, "I will take resisting arrest." And he said, "Okay." We ain't saying shit about this weed. And he stuffed it in his pocket.
He probably took it home and smoked it.
I will guarantee you.
Son of a...
He was quite happy with the way it smelled. So
yeah. So you get this charge. You go to court.
Yeah.
Do they bring up alcohol or anything like that?
They do not.
Okay.
No, they do not.
You're just a kid in the wrong place at the wrong time.
Yeah. And resisting arrest. I mean, I think I got 40 hours of community service, I think,
Mm-hmm.
And but there is another.
What I wanted to ask you, was it your brother's gremlin?
It was not.
Oh, shit. Case of mistaken identity.
It was the baseball guy. And I'm like, come on, how many orange gremlins could there be?
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So that was interesting.
Yeah.
What happens from there?
So it's just a long litany of the same stuff. I mean, every 6 months or so, I would get arrested for something. I've been arrested like 12 times. I went to jail. It's a local thing. I went to the county jail, all right? Now, I got charged with felonies a few different times, but I always managed to just squeak by that. Mm-hmm. And I didn't, I never pled guilty to a felony. I only pled guilty to misdemeanors. And when I was, 17, 18, up to about 22, I was getting locked up periodically. And I would take the jail time. They would offer probation, but that meant not drinking, not doing drugs, and people telling you what to do.
And you're on the hook for years.
Fuck that, I'm not doing that. Put me in jail. If they gave me 6 months, I was good in jail. I get out in 4. Mm-hmm. They gave me 9 months one time. Okay, I got out in 6. Because interestingly enough, I did well in jail.
Yeah.
All right? There were some rules. If you followed the rules, then you got out early. So I went to jail. I ate good. I played basketball, worked out a little bit, played a lot of cards, and I, oddly enough, kind of enjoyed it.
Yeah, and I've heard that before from people that their penal experience was not bad. Yeah. It was not a big deterrent. Did I just say penal?
You did. You did.
I probably shouldn't have said that.
And that does come into play, but not so much in county jail.
It's more of a state. It's more of a state penitentiary.
Long term, you get a pass, but not in the county jail.
All right. So at the time, are you thinking alcohol's a part of my problem?
I know alcohol's part of my problem.
Okay,
I have no doubt about it.
And I've heard a lot of people say that every time I drank, I didn't get in trouble, but every time I got in trouble, I was drinking.
Absolutely.
Is that the case with you?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I did do some things that were against the law when I was sober, but I was a lot more clear-minded, and I got away with them.
Okay. So, alcohol was your downfall as a criminal.
It was, because I did crazy shit when I was drinking and just, didn't care.
So what happens from there? You do some jail time. You're in and out. Your life's kind of going down the shitter at this point, I'm guessing, right?
So what happens is when I'm about 22 years old, I get a girl pregnant. All right. So I try to do the right thing. And I start working a regular job because up until that point, it was always hustling. It was always buying and selling stuff, stuff being whatever. Okay?
Right.
And also, stealing things. And I was a thief. Like I said, I was a thief, 100%. And so anyways, I get this kid on the way, and I'm starting to think that, I don't want my kid to grow up the way that I did. So he's born. And when he was about a year old, I caught an assault charge and my first, well, actually, it's not my first DWI. I'll tell you about the first DWI, which was in the late 80s. And it was right before they really started cracking down, okay? Because it was kind of accepted almost, But the first one I got an unregistered, uninsured car, no license. And I did 3 shots of Jack Daniels, was arguing with my girl, got in the car, drove down the street. Now, in my mind, there was a dog that ran out in front of me. Really not sure what happened. I hit a parked car, pushed that into somebody's front yard, mowed their fence down, ended up against a tree. And I would have ran. There would have been no way they could trace the car to me because it's unregistered, uninsured. Okay, and I would have ran, but the girl, she couldn't find her purse. So that's identification, right? So she climbs in and out of a broken window 3 times, finally pops up with the purse, and when she does, the cops are pulling up. So one of my friends stayed. There was 2 other guys in the car. As soon as the car stopped moving, the first guy, Jerry, got out and hauled ass, and face was bleeding, and he was just gone, right? But his buddy, my buddy Butch that I grew up with, who ended up me and him got arrested 3 or 4 times together. I mean, we always went to jail together. But he stayed. So now the cops come, and they want to know who's driving the car, and I just admitted it. I was hammered. I'm caught. What are you going to do, right? Well, Butch starts arguing with the homeowner, the guy that lives in the house. He starts arguing with him, so they come to blows in front of these cops, so Butch gets arrested with me, and I go to jail, and again, a ton of charges, unregistered, uninsured, unlicensed, DWI, and when I went to court for arraignment, because they actually let me out that night, when I went to court for arraignment, it was it was in a local town, okay, and there was a judge. The judge said, "Do you have a lawyer?" And I said, No. At the time, I didn't have a job, right? So I said, "Well, I'm unemployed." And he said, "Okay." And he called this guy over, this lawyer that was standing off to the side, and he said, "You want to take this case?" And the lawyer says, "Sure." So they start chatting back and forth, and the lawyer says, "Hey, I'm going to see you Saturday for golf," to the judge. And I'm like, "Yes, I'm in." Right?
I'm in or not.
And that was the deal, man. They busted this down to a DWAI. I paid a $250 fine. The whole thing.
Wow.
Holy shit.
Yep. And I paid a $250 fine and walked away from it. And I often thought that if the consequences had been more serious at that point.
Right, I was going to say, so was that a blessing or a curse long term?
At the time, it was a blessing.
Yeah.
Long term, it's a curse, And many of the times that I was arrested, it was, simple stuff that I got away with. And, the charges would be serious, and they get busted down to a misdemeanor because you would plead out to it. And I'd take the
jail time.
Yep.
So you are seeing your alcohol as being an issue in your life.
Absolutely, but I still don't want to stop drinking.
And you got this kid.
I got a kid.
Who's new.
Yeah. So that's where we were with that, right? So I got the kid. He's about a year old, and I get another assault charge, which was a fight at a bar. And I'll back that up a little bit too. So my father was very violent, and he beat us, And then when he left, my older brother took over the job. So and then I took that and went to the playground with it. So I was fighting all the time, and I liked it. I mean, I don't know how to explain that, but I liked it. And I wasn't a very big kid, but I didn't care. And so I was getting these assault charges is what really was causing me problems. But I got a DWI, a for real one, okay? And that was quite a story too. Well, I won't bore you with that. But they're talking about 2 years upstate. Now they're talking state prison, and they're talking 2 years or 5 years probation. So now I got to make a decision.
Right.
And I got this kid, and I don't want to miss 2 years of his life. So I go, okay, I'll take the probation. Now, I don't know if you guys know about probation, but if you have any contact with the police, you have to tell your probation officer immediately. So I got sentenced on Friday. I got to meet her on Monday, and I got tickets over the weekend. So when I went to my very first time to meet my PO, by the way,
By the way, a lot has happened since.
here's these tickets. All right. So I am a train wreck. Probation is not going to work. Okay. I violate 3 or 4 times within this first 6 months, and I end up in jail anyways.
State prison?
No. So it's at that point, you're still, if you violate probation, it has to go through the court system, and they can either reinstate you to probation or they can impose the sentence, the original sentence you're supposed to get. So what happened was there used to be a jail downtown called the Public Safety Building. Everybody called it the Pub. And that was a real jail, all right, with metal floors and metal walls and a metal bed with a little thin mattress on it. And I think the food they fed you was the pigeons they caught on the roof. And I was there for 5 weeks. And then they moved me up to the county jail, what they called the annex at the time, and I was up there for a few more weeks. And my PO came and visited me, and he said, if you want to try this thing, I'll help you. And he said, and if you don't, I'm going to bury you. And I sat there and cried. Now, you ain't supposed to cry in jail, first of all, okay?
It's not a good look.
No. But I sat there and I cried, and it was the first time that I ever, even the smallest bit of surrender this thing, you know what I mean? And I said, all right, man, I'll try it. What do you want to do? And he said, we'll get you into a halfway house. So, all right. So I sat up there for another month waiting for a bed. I had to call the halfway house every day. I got one phone call a day, and I used it to call the halfway house. And finally a bed opened up, and they brought me down there, and I spent 6 months in this halfway house. And I went back to school at that point, and I got my GED because that had always bothered me that I blew that off, And so I got the GED, and I did really well there. Again, if you gave me a set of rules to follow, I could do that.
But are you drinking still?
I am not. When I got out, I drank in jail.
Did you?
I did. No, that's
real quick. How did that work?
We'll have the recipe out
all
soon.
All right. So you got commissary, all right? And my mother, who's still the ultimate enabler, is bringing me 2 cartons of cigarettes a week. So I got money in jail, all right, because cigarettes are worth gold.
Got currency.
Up there. I got currency, and you got commissary. So I'm buying oranges, apples, and bananas, all right?
Man.
And everybody else who's got them, the peels and everything else goes in my toilet, okay? Which means I cannot use my toilet. All right, so for 3 weeks, I couldn't use the toilet myself. In the morning, when they would let us out for breakfast, I'd have to run and use the common one, But that shit ferments in there, and you make this jailhouse hooch. And what they had was, so in commissary, again, you get shampoo. And I don't know if you remember VO5.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
All right, so that's what they had. And they were in a plastic bottle with a squeeze top on it. So you would rinse that out and boil it out and get that nice and clean and fill that up with your hooch. Now, the COs, you could also buy Kool-Aid. So the COs, it's Kool-Aid, man, and they don't check, and you're just squirting freaking hooch in your mouth.
So the COs would never come by and check your toilet.
No. Nope.
Did they know what was going on and just not give a shit, or?
I think that's probably the case.
Yeah, it was just a big hassle or whatever.
And it would keep you from causing trouble.
Okay.
All
right.
You
So you get out of jail, you're doing this probation, you're doing this halfway house thing. And you're not drinking.
I am not drinking.
Is that a condition of your halfway house?
It is.
Do they breathalyze you and the whole deal?
They don't breathalyze, but they had some pretty strict rules. You had to be there at a certain time. You had to either have a job or go to school. I hustled there too, because when I was going to school, I got the job cleaning the halfway house offices in the morning, and then there was a program called Vested that would give you a certain amount of money for transportation and bus tokens and stuff. So I was getting all of my needs were met. and I was making about $40 a week between vested and cleaning the offices and then going to school and living pretty good.
And you were productive.
I was. I was.
And you're not drinking, but are you seeing any effects of not drinking?
I was in there with a whole bunch of guys that were just like me. Now, most of us were just bullshitting our way through it. I kind of convinced myself that I was going to stay sober. And what I did was I went to a lot of meetings. And I went to a lot of meetings with guys just like me.
So let's just back it up for a second. So how did you go to your first meeting?
Is this an AA meeting?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. My first meeting really was when I was 18 years old. When I got that first, the DWAI, that's when I pleaded to it. When I got that first DWAI, the lawyer suggested I go to AA. So I went to one meeting, okay? And because that's what he asked me to do.
Yeah.
I didn't go to any more. And here's what happened there, though. I knew those people knew something about me. I could see, holy shit, they know what they're talking about, and that stuff inside of me, they get it, and it scared the shit out of me, So I stayed away from them because for two reasons. One, I had never experienced anything like that in my life, and two, if I did this, I'd have to stop drinking.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to.
But something you got something there.
I did.
There was a connection.
There was a guy there. The only thing I really remember was a guy said, even if we just planted the seed today, we've done our job.
Yep.
And he planted the seed because I never forgot that.
And so how long after that was your second meeting?
So that was about 4 years later. And I was about 22. I was 22 or 23 years old.
Was it the same thing did they suggest you go?
Well, you had to.
Okay, it was part of the deal.
You had to. Yeah, I mean, we have a higher power in the program. At that point, it was the probation department.
Yeah, okay.
Because if I don't do what they say, I'm going to jail.
Yeah.
I don't want to go back to jail. So at that point, I split up with the girl, with the kid, okay? But I still got visitation. We went to court. I got visitation. I'm seeing him on the weekends, and things were going pretty good. The circumstances of my life got way better because I'm not drinking anymore. I was working in a restaurant. They were scheduling me for Saturday and Sunday mornings because I was the only guy that would show up,
Yeah.
because I'm sober. I'm taking a bus out there, but I'm getting there, right? And things are going pretty good. And so I did so well. I got out of the halfway house after 6 months, moved in with a friend of mine that had been in a halfway house, lived there for probably about 6 months, and then he started drinking again. And when he started drinking again, I moved out. And I got an apartment of my own, and I'm clean and sober at this point about a year and a half.
And are you going to meetings on a regular basis?
I'm going to meetings every day.
Do you have a sponsor?
I do not have a sponsor.
Okay.
I do not have
You're
a
not
home
working
group.
the steps yet?
I'm not working
You're
those
just
steps.
doing the fellowship?
No steps.
And I don't want to hear nothing about God.
Right.
Nothing. And there's a story behind that, But that's what I'm doing. And so I'll tell you the God story real quick.
Sure.
So it talks about in the book that a lot of us turned our back on God at an early age, and that was me. So I was raised in the Catholic religion, and I really believed wholeheartedly in this God that they taught me about. But when I'm 7 or 8 years old, and my father's beating the shit out of me and my brother, and beating my mother, and the cops were coming to our house all the time, I didn't sleep at night because of stuff that was going on. I'm thinking, how can there be a God? And I go to church school once a week, and a nun says that if you're having a genuine crisis of faith, that if you ask God to show himself to you, he will. But you got to be having a genuine crisis of faith. And I am having a genuine crisis of faith, okay? So when I leave there, I walk down the street, and the school that I went to was elementary school. School that I went to had a huge playground outside. And I said, all right, God, if there's really a God, I'm going to find a four-leaf clover. And I searched that field for about 2 hours. And I do not find a four-leaf clover, and I go, fuck this, there ain't no God. And it's just that simple. And then for many, many, many years, I say there is no God, but really I think there is a God. He just don't care about me. All right?
Mm-hmm.
So
I've heard people say that,
And if you don't care about me, I don't want nothing to do with you. So, so where were we? So the halfway house, right? So I get out of there. I'm living another year or so clean and sober. No steps, no God, no home group,
So
no
the fellowship
sponsor.
is keeping you sober.
The fellowship is keeping me sober. And I'm doing so well on this 5-year probation that they let me off early. All right? So I only did 2.5 years of it. Half of that year I spent bouncing in and out of the jail, and then, 6 months in the halfway house, and then actually stayed sober out on my own, living in the world. Got a job, and doing so well. They let me off early, and within a month I had a drink in my hand. And And a friend of mine, an old friend, was having a birthday party. They know I'm sober. They say, hey, come on down, just hang out for a little while, have a hamburger. And I said, all right. And I go down there, and I said, well, I'm not going to drink, you know. And when I got there, somebody put a beer in my hand, and I really didn't want to drink it. But I could not do it.
Here we are again.
Yep.
So I drank it.
Yeah.
And then it was off to the races, brother.
Welcome home.
Yeah, and that's how it felt, you know.
Yeah.
That's how it felt.
So you got fucked up that night.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Were there consequences pretty quick?
Not really, no. It took a while before I got in any more trouble. It took a while, maybe a year or so. And then I caught another assault charge. But I kind of dodged that one. I got out of that because the guy that was involved with that didn't show up for court, so that got dismissed. And I was also, during that time, those first couple of years of drinking again, I figured liquor's my problem, right? Beer's okay, all right? And if I add a little cocaine to that, I can drink longer, I stay more clear-headed, and I just got to not drink liquor. So I would not drink liquor until I drank enough beer that I would forget that I don't drink liquor.
And then you start.
And then I would drink liquor. And
I got so drunk I forgot I don't drink liquor.
yeah. So I did eventually get to the point where I didn't drink liquor anymore. And the way that worked was when somebody would offer me a shot or something, I'd say, why, do you want to fight?
Perfect.
And then my friends started saying that. Somebody that didn't know me would say, hey, you want a shot? And they go, why, you want to fight them? And that pretty much put the squash on the liquor, you know. So I stopped drinking that, and I just drank beer. But I also picked up cocaine. And I told you I grew up in this kind of shitty neighborhood. Mm-hmm. So there was a guy that I grew up with that was pretty heavily involved in the trade, and I never got a bad bag. All right, I never got a bad bag. I wasn't one of those guys that lost $100, you know what I mean, because somebody robbed him or whatever. I was making money off what I was getting from them. So I don't know if you guys are familiar with this, but cocaine will allow you to drink all freaking day and most of the night, you know. And so I did a lot of that along with the alcohol. And I really think if it wasn't for cocaine, I'd probably still be out drinking right now. Because it wore me out a lot faster.
No kidding, yeah. We're trying to fast forward.
Yeah.
Were you just snorting coke at the time?
Yeah, I just snorted it. Although I smoked it a bunch of times too.
Yeah.
I smoked it a bunch of times, but for some reason it never grabbed a hold of me like it does a lot of people. You know, so.
And so, did things come to a head with this whole way of life?
So, I ended up living with a girl, another one. She had a kid that was about 6 years old. My son was 6 at that time. And but he was actually at that point living in California. His mother had moved out there, and I lost that court battle. But I would get him every summer, and then I would get him. Actually, for the first couple of years he was out there, I had him for half a year, and I was drinking that whole time. But I moved in with this girl, and right away our relationship became violent. She was a violent drunk, and I was a violent drunk, and it was a bad mix. And what I did was I stopped drinking. Okay. And because what I was really concerned about was these kids. And I stopped drinking. And when I say I stopped drinking, what that really means is I only drank a couple times a year. And she would go out of town to visit her mother in Maryland. I would get wrecked that weekend. You know, she'd go visit her father.
But when she
Maine.
was around, you knew it was going to be bad.
And so I didn't do it. And I also didn't leave my house. I went to work. I came home. And I built motorcycles in my garage, and that's what I did. We lived way out in the country outside of this town outside of Syracuse, and I just stayed home. And, friends would call and say, hey, you want to ride down here? And I go, no, I don't want to. And she would say, go, but I wouldn't because I knew if I did, I would drink.
Yeah.
So I couldn't go down. Yeah.
Now, so did it ever occur to you to go back to meetings?
The thought had occurred to me.
Yeah.
But I said, that stuff is bullshit. It
Yeah.
don't work.
Doesn't
Come on.
work,
Yeah. Jesus, come on. It's bullshit.
And so obviously the progressiveness of the disease is happening.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely. And I know this. I know this. I know. I've known my whole life I'm an alcoholic. And for many, many years, that was my excuse. What I didn't know, what I know now that I didn't know is that I have alcoholism. I always knew there was something wrong with me besides the fact I just drink too much. And I get in trouble when I drink. That happens, but there's more wrong with me than that.
Alcoholism, or the alcohol is a symptom.
Yes.
And you're starting to realize that.
Yeah. So what eventually happens is that marriage breaks up, I think because I'm not drinking, to be honest with you, because I was just a miserable asshole. And then my ego is like, well, who are you to leave me? I come home, I don't go anywhere, I don't fool around, I'm
perfect.
Yeah.
God damn it.
But off she goes, and within a day, I thought, holy shit, I can drink. You know, that was the thought that came to me. Holy shit, I can drink. It'd been 6 years of living in that freaking living hell. You know,
hell of drinking, hell of not drinking, right?
And I was down at a bar that I used to hang at that night. 3 hours after getting there, I remember standing in the bathroom. Smells like piss in there, and I'm looking at myself in the mirror and going, "Hello, old friend, there you are." You know, and it was off to the races again. I mean, off to the races again. So a good 5-year run on that one. And a lot of drugs.
Is your life going off the rails during this 5 years, or are you kind of keeping it together?
Well, I'm kind of keeping it together as best I can. I mean, I worked for part of that time. So I'll share this with you. This gets a little dark, all right? But the wife leaves, right? And my ego is obviously there's a dude involved with this, right? Because why would she leave me otherwise? So I'm stalking her, and I'm going and I'm finding her places, and she was always either with her girlfriend or by herself, and she never knew. She never knew. Hopefully she doesn't listen to this, but I will say everything I ever did, the statutes of limitations, I think have run out.
Okay,
we're good there.
There you go.
Because there was other stuff, but I'm also carrying a gun with me, and I'm thinking I'm going to shoot the dude that's with her.
We're back to that again.
Now, I would venture to guess that I'm going to shoot them both, but that's not what I'm saying to myself. I'm going to shoot the guy and put an end to this shit. And I do this for about 2 months. And finally, I mean, I'm barely sleeping. I'm drinking. I'm snorting cocaine, and I'm chasing her around. And I had a job where they really didn't know where I was, and I'm lying to them. I'm doing about a third of the work I'm supposed to. And I finally got to where I can't do this anymore, you know. And so I stopped. I stopped following her. But I guess there's a little more to that, too, because I was at a friend's house. We'd been out riding that day. I'll preface this with this, is I'm a biker. I've been riding motorcycles my whole life. And I was out riding with these guys, and I saw her coming down the road. And there was a guy in the car. And this was on a Sunday. And there's a guy in the passenger seat. So I called her. At first I waved at him. They didn't see me. And I called her. And I go, "So who you got in the car with you?" And she goes, "What do you mean?" I go, "Well, you just drove by me. I'm over here on the road you just drove down, and you just drove by me. And you got a dude in the car with you. And, so what's up?" And she says, "Well, it's my boyfriend." Okay. Now, before that, after I had settled down and stopped chasing her around, she got an apartment. I'd gone over there a couple times, and I tried to help her get the place
So you guys are on
comfortable.
speaking terms.
We were kind of on speaking terms, and my thought was make her comfortable, she'll come to her senses, and she'll come home. I kind of want that, I kind of don't. But now I see she's got a guy, and all right, I'm done. Take it easy. I said, "You need something fixed at your house, ask him to do it." And then I didn't actually talk to her or speak to her for about 7 years after that. And that's how long it took for us to get divorced. That's when we finally got in touch, was to do the paperwork and get divorced. But so where was I with all this? Life's been a train wreck.
So your life is unmanageable.
It is
Just
100%.
a little bit.
Yeah. So that
You're living this
job.
completely fucking insane.
It is
unmanageable life. And what happens?
So I quit the job, a good job, quit it, and I went into a different business. All right. So a buddy of mine had this little remodeling thing going. And but alongside of that was selling weed. All right. Again, statutes of limitations has run out on this, so I'll share it. And so the job was really just to cover. And him and I moved a shit ton of weed, a shit ton, and it made a lot of money. I mean, stupid amounts of money. And that's kind of what we did. I just ran. I'm carrying a weapon with me. And one of those felony charges I had before was possession of a weapon that I actually beat, but you get caught again.
Right. So you're not allowed to carry a weapon.
I'm not supposed to carry a weapon.
Is it unregistered?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So you're living life as a criminal.
Yeah.
Criminal bot dealer, basically.
100%.
And so, do you see this as a problem at the time?
So here's what happened. So I'm doing this for about 3.5 years. And 3.5, maybe 4 years we're doing this. And I was coming home. I moved way out of the city that I was living in. I moved way out in the country to kind of keep a lower profile, right? And I was on my way home in the wintertime, and I had about 20 pounds in the back of the truck and a weapon under the seat. And I lost...
How much?
About 20 pounds.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
That wasn't a lot.
Okay. Oh, I see.
All right.
Sorry.
It was a small.
He was a wholesaler.
Yeah. It wasn't. People weren't coming to my door. Okay. Yeah. And I had amounts of weed that you had to protect.
Oh, okay.
Which adds another layer to this thing, because if somebody tries to take it from you, you have to stop them.
Here I am again with getting an education.
Right. There's a lot of money.
Yeah. It's a lot of money. It's a lot of money. It's $35,000 here, $50,000 there.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it's a lot of money. And if they take it from you, the people that you owe the money to don't care why you don't have it. All right. So there's a lot involved there. But I'm driving home and I lose control of my truck, and I'm spinning out on the highway. And I was actually on the phone with my girlfriend at the time. I never lost the phone. Straightened the truck back out. But I had this moment of revelation as I got back control of the truck that, holy shit, man, if I dump this thing on the side of the road, I'm going to prison. I mean, I'm not going to county jail.
Right.
And I ain't going for a couple of years, you know. And in that moment, something clicked in me and said, something's got to change here. And within a couple of weeks, I walked away from that business. I went to the partner that I had, and I gave him a weapon and a pile of cash and the stuff that was left, and said, I'm done. I ain't doing this anymore. And that was me. My thought was getting sober. Now, I gave all that up, and I walked away from it. And I started doing a little remodel of my own on the side, so I was making decent money, and I was trying to not drink, because I thought I had quit drinking on my own before. You know, because that's 6 years where I only drank a couple times a year. I thought, you know, hey, I did it. You know, I can do this. So I started to try to not drink. And during that time, that girl that I was with, who was a lot younger than me, got pregnant. And so now I got another kid on the way, which adds another little wrinkle to this thing, okay? At the same time, that older son, he's drinking and drugging now, all right? And he knew what business I was involved in. He was involved a little bit peripherally. And so he's drinking and drugging now, and I got that in my hands, and I feel guilty about that. And I got another kid coming. I got this girl it's like raising another kid because she's 17 years younger than me. And so I'm trying to not drink.
Your life is all kinds of fun.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
it was exciting. I'll say that. It was exciting. You know, and that's been something. That's been one of the hardest things to let go of, is the excitement of the life that I led.
We talk about that with a lot of guests, is that chaos is part of the allure of that lifestyle.
And it's not even, for me, it's not even just the chaos. It was the adrenaline rush of a lot of stuff, you know.
And I'm gonna stop you right there for a second, Bob. I think what we're going to do is we're going to continue on. We're going to give our listeners a chance to hear the rest of the story.
Yeah, I'm really excited about that, too.
Bobby T. Part 2. So we're going to end this episode 12 here, and we're going to pick you right back up at episode 13. Until then, I'm Mark.
I'm Brett.
And I'm Bob.
As we wrap up another episode of the Glum Lot Podcast, we want to extend our heartfelt gratitude to each and every one of you who tuned in today. Navigating the path to recovery from alcohol and other substances is a journey filled with challenges, triumphs, and self-discovery. Remember, we're not affiliated with Alcoholics Anonymous, but we're here to provide a safe space for open conversations about the complexities of recovery. Your stories, courage, and resilience inspire us and our listeners alike. If you or someone you know is on the transformative journey, know that you're not alone. Join us next time as we continue to explore the diverse facets of recovery. Until then, stay strong, stay connected, and remember that each day is a step towards a brighter, sober tomorrow. Thank you for being part of the Glum Lot community.